Hi, this is Dr. Robert Norman. Glad you're here. This is the Brain-Skin Connection series, The Outer Brain, the Incredible Power of the Brain-Skin Connection. This is from the Norman Center for Neurodermatology. We're investigating the interactions between the brain and the skin in relationship to disorders such as melanoma, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, autism, neurodermatitis, and other neurocutaneous diseases. What is our goal here is to translate skin-brain research into effective behavioral strategies that prevent disease, promote healing, provide treatments, and enhance well-being across the lifespan. A new study proposes that hearing is just another sense of touch. This was presented in an article by Elizabeth Preston in Discover magazine. The same genes can make you good or deficient at both. She writes, hearing a bird chirp and picking up a pencil from your desk, though they seem like wildly different tasks, are really the same trick performed by your body twice. Cells that receive physical input from the outside world, such as the edge of the pencil against your fingertips, or the vibration of sound waves rattling your inner ear, have to turn that information into an electrical signal and send it back to the brain. Researchers in Germany that were noted from this Preston article guess that the same genes affect both senses in people as well as in other vertebrates. They use human subjects to ask the question in several different ways. First, the team studied a group of more than 500 hearing subjects. In a battery of tests, people listened to tones and clicks, responded to tiny vibrations on their fingertips, which measures their touch sensitivity, and felt surfaces with narrow ridges, which is the touch acuity. There was plenty of variability in subjects' hearing and touch abilities. Both senses clearly grew worse with age, and in many of the tests, women outperformed men. These data let researchers chart how a healthy person's senses should act throughout their lives. Next, 100 pairs of twins came in for testing. Not all at once, I hope. Geneticists love twins because identical sets have all the same genes, so any differences between them must come from somewhere outside their DNA. Fraternal sets share about half of their genes, but are the same age and usually grew up in the same environment, so they can be easily compared to identical. Subjecting the twin sets to the same test, the researchers saw that touch sensitivity and touch acuity both have major genetic components, just like hearing does. And they saw that the two senses correspond to each other. Those with good hearing were more likely to have a good sense of touch. What about people with bad hearing? The researchers recruited another set of 39 teenagers and young adults from a school for the hearing impaired. About a fifth of the deaf subjects had very poor touch performance. There are plenty of genetic and non-genetic reasons people are born deaf. The researchers did not know which of these factors were present in their subjects, but for some hearing impaired people, whatever damaged their hearing did the same to their sense of touch. The simple explanation would be that the same genetic mutation affects both senses. Finally, researchers examined a group of subjects with an illness called Usher syndrome that causes deafness and blindness. Scientists know of several genes that are involved, and a mutation in any one of them can cause Usher syndrome. The German team found that patients with a certain Usher gene mutation also had significantly worse touch acuity than normal. The twins and the deaf young adults showed that hearing and touch go along with each other, seeming to rely on shared genes. The Usher syndrome patients let researchers go a step further and identify one specific gene that affects both senses. The senior author of the paper, Gary Lewin, said, both senses require cells that convert tiny changes in mechanical force into an electrical signal. Genes may code for proteins that play a similar role in this process in the two types of cells. In other words, if our cells use the same genes for hearing and touch, they may also share a set of molecular tools. So the article author, Preston, questioned Lewin and said, are we on the path to decreasing our number of senses? If we begin to understand hearing and touch as one mechanism, And if taste barely exists without smell, do we really have three senses? Lewin responded, no, I think we will stick with five and maybe even more senses. The cellular mechanisms and the way these different sensory cells are connected are highly unique. Our sensory skills and connections will continue to teach us new tricks and ways we can learn more about our amazing sensory pathways. Another experiment by psychology professor Tony Rowe from the City College of New York involved monitoring people hearing sounds over headphones and feeling vibrations through their hands and their feet. Rowe and his colleagues took pictures of the participants' brains during the experiment using a variety of equipment, including electroencephalography and MRIs, in order to measure the sensory response of the participants. At the same time, see which parts of the brains were active while responding to sound and touch stimuli. Rowe said, we find in most of our experiments that sounds affect the way we feel and can produce feeling sensations even when no touch was presented to them. Does that mean that in some sense we can feel with our ears or listen with our fingertips? Shu asked. On an abstract level, we may feel with our ears, but most of this crossing of the senses, or synesthesia, is actually happening in our brain rather than the sensing organs like our ears or skin, Rowe said. Rowe hopes that his studies can be used to develop sensory substitution techniques that can help those who have impairments in one or more of their senses. He stated, I think that these results strongly suggest that hearing and feeling have the same underlying physical and neural underpinnings. Not only do the two senses use similar processing mechanisms in the body and in the brain, but our results imply that hearing actually evolved out of the sense of touch. Such findings could help develop therapies for the hearing and visually impaired by substituting touch sensations for lost hearing and vision, and could aid rehabilitation after brain damage. From an evolutionary point of view, it seems clear that hearing and our sense of touch have a survival value. If you hear the menacing sound of a mosquito that may be able to deliver a very unhealthy dose of malaria or other disease, the buzz will heighten your awareness of an impending landing on your skin via aerial assault. The touch of the attacking mosquito will have been heralded by the buzz in your ear and the proprioceptive signal to the brain to reach out your hand to slap it at the proper location will follow. Included in these type of survival signals of hearing and touch are the sound of a storm whipped up and the spray of water on your face, signaling a need to take quick cover. My next talk will be on how does aging skin contain clues about aging brains.